Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here. Apologies for this unusual intro. I did have a minor accident in the past few days and it's not really looking so great. I hope you don't mind. We did have a couple of updates on the Dragon Age The Veilguard, so let's dive right in and let me show you what's been going on. Well, the next vid which we have received, or the next information that we have received from BioWare, was directly released on the Dragon Age The Veilguard homepage. It is in the form of news journals, as you can see here. And if you scroll down on the page, you will see that they have divided the updates into smaller vids. One separate vid is for the skill tree progression. Another one is for the item progression, and then we have the companions progression. But they also collected all the information in one summary vid, all the parts here as well. So let me play this vid for you as well. And also this one will not be, let's say, without the sound. I will leave the original sound in the vid, and I will stop the vid whenever there is some additional information or observation that I would like to provide to you. But I think it's important here to have the original sound because it is a info on all the details on the progression of all these items and characters, etc. So it's necessary to hear it.
I'm Hilary Heidi, a producer at BioWare. Let's take a look at game progression in Dragon Age The Veilguard. In this video, we'll cover skill progression, item progression, and companion progression. My goal is to build a rogue assassin who darts around my enemies and strikes them down with poison blades. In order to craft this build, I'll need to invest in the right skills, find and upgrade gear, and ensure my companions complement my strategy. Let's start by looking at skill progression. As you complete missions, find codex entries, explore the world, and kill enemies, you'll level up your class. Each new level grants more health and unlocks skill points. The Constellation skill tree is where you spend points to unlock new skills. Each class has a unique skill tree and can specialize in a specific form of combat. Specializations unlock at level 20. Rogues can specialize as saboteurs, Veil Rangers, or duelists. I'm going to build toward the duelist specialization, which emphasizes agility and poisoning enemies with necrotic damage. There are 4 types of skills: traits, passives, abilities, and ultimates. Traits are activated by button combos. The Riposte trait launches a powerful counterattack after a successful parry or defend. Passives are skills that are always active. The Death's Blessing passive gives you plus 10% necrotic damage. Abilities are actions you trigger during combat. With the Toxic Dash ability, you dash toward your target to land a deadly blow, dealing necrotic damage.
I will stop here for a moment. I think what I am missing here, and it is something that was so well in the previous games, it was the fact that whenever you had any passives in use, or you had invested skill points in any passives, you could see them, you know, on that taskbar at the bottom of the screen. And you could even decide to turn off some of the passives if they were not necessary or if they were like clashing and colliding with each other. So this is something that I'm missing here. It's great to know that you have the same, let's say, type of abilities and skills and passives and whatever that you can activate, but I'm missing the option to have it visible in one spot. And as I said previously, I do not really find this skill tree very useful. For me, it's really like in one big chunk, and it's it's not so great to see immediately maybe what you are looking for.
Also applies the Sundered status, but we'll talk more about statuses when we get to companions. And finally, ultimates are high-impact, large attacks that take longer to charge up but create devastating amounts of damage. Within the Duelist specialization, I have access to a unique ultimate ability called a Murder of Crows. I'll unlock this ability and then switch over to my character screen to equip my new ultimate. You can swap out your abilities and ultimates anytime you're not in combat.
And again, here I would like to point out, you can swap them out whenever you are not in combat. Again, I think this is downgrading from the previous games where you had all of your abilities available during the fight and you could just use whichever one you wanted. And here, because of the limitation of the free active skills in a fight, if you want to use any different ones than the current ones, you have to basically like not be engaged in a combat, and you don't have all the range and all the options available to you. So I still believe that this is a downgrade to the previous games in terms of like using your abilities in combat.
You can also enhance your abilities with enchantments, but we'll get to that in part 2. By leveling up, unlocking new skills, and choosing a specialization, you can start to design your ideal playstyle. But this is only the beginning. In part 2, we'll talk about item progression.
End it now.
Your character Rook can equip up to 9 items. Each class has their own main hand, offhand, and alternate weapon. For example, my rogue has a sword, a rapier, and a bow for ranged attacks. You also have a helmet, armor, a belt, an amulet, and 2 rings. You can acquire items in 2 ways. The first is by visiting vendors and faction stores. The higher you raise your reputation with each faction, the more items become available for purchase. The second way to acquire items is simply by finding them in the world. For example, while exploring the Necropolis halls, I discover a new main hand weapon, the Enchanted Longblade. Every item has stats and properties, as well as a rarity, ranging from uncommon to rare, to epic, to legendary. This uncommon item has high physical damage and stagger stats, along with a property that deals plus 20% final attack damage, making the final blow and attack chains more powerful, perfect for my melee-focused assassin build. But what if I want to make it even better? At the heart of item progression is the Caretaker's Workshop. The Caretaker is a mysterious entity that has set up shop in your home base, the Lighthouse.
I go where I am needed, dweller. Now, I am here.
This is one very positive thing, that you will have basically a merchant or a shop directly in the Lighthouse, so you don't have to specifically fast travel somewhere, and you will have this option to buy stuff here. So this is really something that I see very positive.
Here you can upgrade item stats and enchant your items. The workshop has its own rank, 0 to 10. You can increase this rank by finding caretaker mementos out in the world, or buying them at shops. The higher the rank, the better your upgrades. When you upgrade an item, you'll spend the required resources, and that item will get a stat increase. At the same time, its level will increase by 1 until it matches your current Caretaker's Workshop rank.
Again, here something that I see very positively. So when you have a weapon where you like the, let's say, abilities of that weapon, and you would love to, going forward, use that one, you have the option to increase the ranks here, and you don't necessarily have to find a different or a new weapon that would have higher stats. So I really like the fact that you can upgrade the weapons here that you already have and that you already use, if you like to continue using them.
Higher rank unlocks new enchantments. These can be applied to an item or ability, imbuing it with a unique property.
Another thing, again, that I have noticed here is, and I think that's different than to the previous games, but I am not 100% sure, so please correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong, but if I remember it right, we could also enchant or put enchantments or enhance the boots. So we have here the helmet, the armor, 2 rings, a belt and an amulet. I do seem to remember that we also had the option to upgrade boots. So we had technically one more item that we could have like upgraded and use a different maybe set of enchantments. But I'm not sure if I remember that correctly. But I think we have now less opportunities to upgrade or improve, you know, the items that we are wearing, which is a little bit of a shame.
For example, I can enchant my main hand weapon with plus 25% more stagger to quickly set up enemy takedowns. I'll also add an enchantment to one of my abilities, Toxic Dash, to increase its crit damage by 25%.
And this is something that I absolutely love. I have to say that you can even like enchant your abilities. And this is something that makes the playthrough, any playthrough, so very unique. And I think this is something that adds a lot to a replay value of the game, because you can enchant in different ways, different abilities. So you cannot just simply play as a different class, but you can within one class use very different abilities, and then you can enchant those even in different manners. So even if you would play, for example, as a rogue, 2 playthroughs, the second row can be set up very, very differently as the first one, and you might have a completely different combat experience. And this is something that I really have to say I appreciate on the game, and I really appreciate that the devs have even thought about this, because this makes it very unique. This makes every playthrough very unique, and I really like this one.
Your companion's items can be upgraded and enchanted as well. More on that in part 3. But the workshop rank affects more than just the items you bring to the shop. Anytime you find or buy a new item in the world, its level will match the current rank. So if your current rank is 1, new items you find will be at level 1. But if your current rank is 5, new items will be at level 5. And if you find or purchase a duplicate of an item you already own, 2 things happen.
Prepare yourselves.
First, the level of your existing item will jump up to match the Caretaker's Workshop rank, increasing its stats. The item will also be empowered, unlocking a property and increasing its rarity. Buying a duplicate of my offhand weapon, the Duelist Blade, bumps up the blade's stats, unlocks a property that applies necrosis to enemies I hit with riposte, and changes its rarity from uncommon to rare. So it's a good idea to keep leveling up your Caretaker's Workshop, because the higher its rank, the better your items will be, whether you're upgrading them at the workshop or finding them out in the world. Another item type you can find or buy are runes. Each rune provides a passive bonus to your build, as well as an active bonus you can trigger. Up to 3 runes can be slotted into Rook's Lyrium Dagger. I'll slot in this Scorch rune, which allows my otherwise necrotic focus build to deal out fire damage. But skills, items, and upgrades aren't the only elements of creating your build, because in the Veilguard, you're not fighting alone. In part 3, we'll talk about companion progression. Each companion has their own skill tree and unique items. They can be equipped with a main hand weapon, an offhand weapon or keepsake.
And again, here I will stop the vid, because also what I mentioned previously, that I think we have fewer items on the armor and on the clothing that we can enhance. The same goes definitely for the companions. I do believe that we had more items that we could have improved previously than we have here.
armor, and a trinket. Some gear, such as this Corvid cloak on Lucanus, can enhance my character's build. In this case, applying bleeding or necrotic damage whenever I detonate an overwhelmed target. And at the Caretaker's Workshop, I can upgrade and enchant companion items just like Rook's gear. Let's upgrade Lucanus' Corvid cloak to level 5, greatly increasing its bonus ability damage, and enchant it with +1 maximum stack of necrosis. Companions also have their own skill trees, so as they level up, you can spend points to unlock skills that complement your own.
And on this point again, I will chime in with my observation. This is what I would have loved for Rook to have as a skill tree. Of course, we do have way more abilities and options than our companions. They have just, let's say, 5 skills as far as I can see, or 5 skill trees. But I would have loved to see this separation for Rook as well. I would have really preferred to have it this way because it looks more, it's not so unkempt, it's not so chaotic, and you can easily find something that you are looking for, and you have, let's say, a better control about the skills that you are upgrading, the abilities that you are upgrading. I really prefer to see this kind of skill tree to the one that we could see for Rook's character.
Some abilities can serve as primers, applying status effects to enemies such as sundered, overwhelmed, or weakened. Other abilities are detonators, combining with primers to create powerful detonations on status-afflicted targets. You can swap out companion abilities anytime you're not in combat, just like Rook. In some cases, you'll want to spec companions with abilities that can fill in for weak spots in your build. For example, if I know I'm going to face a horde of Darkspawn, which are resistant to my Rook's necrotic damage but weak against fire, I'll want to bring along a companion like Davrin, who has powerful fire abilities. I'll also bring Nev, who can detonate targets that I've primed. First, I'll use Davrin's Asan's Strike ability to inflict fire damage and knock down his Darkspawn. Next, I'll rush in with Toxic Dash to prime a target with the Sundered status. And finally, I'll use Nev's Icebreaker ability on the Sundered enemy to detonate it. In other situations, such as this battle against the undead, I want to max out my necrotic damage potential. I can accomplish that by bringing along Lucanus, a fellow rogue whose gear and abilities increase the amount of necrotic damage I can deal out.
On this spot, one thing which is not necessarily related to what is being discussed here, but just an observation. The opponents, like the undead here, or also the darkspawn, etc., they look kind of they look different, but not in a good way. I would say they look kind of like comic figures and not necessarily in a positive manner. So I do believe that the undead and the darkspawn from the previous games that we could see in the previous games from the Dragon Age franchise looked more, let's say, threatening, or they really gave you this vibe of being a dangerous opponent. In this case, I don't really have the feeling because of how ridiculous they look sometimes, like this undead that we could see. Yeah, it was kind of weird. So yeah, I'm just a side observation here. I'm not really fond of the looks of some of the enemies.
Our progression systems allow you to finely tune your skills, gear, and companions to create the perfect build.
Got us in the distance!
Alright, so that was it for the progressions display on how items, characters, Rook and the companions are progressing during the game, the higher you get. I think this one was very useful, and I think from all the vids that we have seen so far, which includes the gameplay, this one gave like the best idea on how you can set up your game and how you can set up your rook and your companions so that the game that you are going to play is something enjoyable. So I do really appreciate this one, how they did it, and I'm really looking forward to see the next vids and to see what else will be revealed for the Dragon Age The Veilguard game. So I hope you did like this segment here. Please let me know what your thoughts are here on this one, whether you like, for example, the skill tree or what you think about the caretaker shop, etc. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. It would be much appreciated. Thanks a lot. Alright, and aside from the videos that we have already previously seen and discussed, there have been also two posts that I would like to highlight here, which were made on Twitter. One was by the Dragon Age page themselves. They did release the pictures of the companions' rooms. So let's make maybe a guess to whom these rooms belong. But if you think that I'm wrong in one of those, let me know in the comment section below, please. So the first room that I can see is something that reminds me a little bit like of a workout room. And I do believe because there is also the furniture and all the shelves laid relatively low, like it's really in a short height. I would say this probably belongs to Harding because she's a dwarf, so she will be of a smaller stature, and I think this would fit her as a rogue. So that would be my guess. And there is also in the background something that's like, I don't know, how would I call it, like a ladder. It's not exactly a ladder, but it definitely is a tool to help out somebody who's relatively small to reach to like bigger heights. So yeah, my guess would be this first one belongs to Harding. The next room which I can see is having something like a pond in the middle of the room, or I don't know, a bathtub or something. It's kind of interesting because there is not really that much here that would be giving you a hint on like whose room this could be. It does have some windows and there's a lot of light coming in, so I don't know. Based on what I have seen, this is I'm not really decided on whom to like assign this room to, but I have like two people where I'm not 100% sure, and for me Davrin is one of those, so I would probably place Davrin here in this room. To be honest, I have no clue. Maybe the pond or bathtub is used by the griffin. Who knows? So that's my guess here. The next room has a central spiral staircase and a ton of various flasks in all the shelves. My guess here would be probably Emmerich, and also because of the like skeletal statue on the left side. He is a magic user, so he would probably need all of those flasks or potions which are in there, and I think that skeletal statue gives a good hint about like the room being assigned to him. So my guess here would be pretty much Emmerich for this one. The next one is something where I'm almost sure, so that's one of the very few ones where I would say, yeah, this one definitely fits in general, like the art style of something that companion has, and this one is Bellara's, I believe. It's simply, if you look at the ceiling, what's hanging there from the ceiling, I'm not even sure how I would call it, chandelier or something, yeah, so art piece. It is having exactly the same material and color and style as the device that Bellara has on her hand, which basically like expands to a bow. So I believe this room belongs to her. Then we have a room with a central like desk, and behind the desk we can see a ton of books and scrolls, and there is also like on the wall a lot of papers and notes and everything, and somehow this room like gives me the vibe of an investigator, which would fit with Neve. So I believe that this room belongs to Neve, and she's having all the investigation done here. So that's my guess. This room, which I can see here, it's kind of a weird, but for me, for whatever reason, it would fit probably an Antivan Crow. So in this case, Lucanis. I don't know. I know it looks kind of weird because it's looking like a pantry without like windows and everything. And it's very simple. There's not really much there in that room. But it just gives me this vibe like it is probably for a, I wouldn't want to say like professional killer, but yeah, something like that, where he just wants to be away from people and he wants to like concentrate and relax and feel safe. So I believe this room is kind of giving me this vibe, yeah. And the last one, which I can see, this one is something that gives me Tash vibes, definitely, because there is this kind of statue of the dragon. It is a very like bright room, white, with open like windows. I'm not even sure if that's windows. It's just like open air openings in that building. And in general, like this entire style just gives me the vibe for Tash. So yeah, I believe this one would be hers. Yeah, so that was all the rooms. Let me know which one you think belongs to whom, and if you think that I'm wrong in one of those. And aside from the rooms, we also had one more post, which was posted by IGN on Twitter. And I know it might be, again, something controversial for some of you, but still it is the reality from what I have seen. That's my impression. The IGN post says that the Dragon Age Veilguard combat currently is feeling very much like a combination of other games. And in this case, they have compared it to a like combination of God of War meets Mass Effect. And I did post my thoughts to that. And for me, honestly, that's exactly what I would not want to see normally in a Dragon Age game, that somebody says that it when looking at the combat, that it gives them the vibes of some completely different games. That's not what Dragon Age should be about. Now, I'm not saying that the combat is bad, okay? So that my opinion is not on the combat itself. It's just the impression that it gives. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't giving you an impression of two completely unrelated games that have their own specific like play styles and own specific combat styles. I believe that Dragon Age in this case is really losing its uniqueness, and it's really looking now very generic compared to what it used to before. Before, if you looked at the combat and you've seen some screenshots or some vids, it was pretty much identifiable as Dragon Age. Now, if you look at the combat itself, without like knowing from which game this is, and like without recognizing the companions, you would think that it's just one of these hack and slash games that came out this year or last year, but you wouldn't necessarily immediately identify it as Dragon Age or belonging to the Dragon Age franchise. And I think it's a little bit of a shame that it's losing this kind of uniqueness, okay? Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying the combat is bad. I shared my opinion on that already in the previous vids, but in general, it's losing its uniqueness, and I find it a pity that it's like no longer as easily identifiable, and it's losing this kind of recognizability, I would say. Yeah. So that's it for a quick summary of what's currently going on. Please feel free to use the comment section below in case you would like to add something from your side. I would be happy to see some feedback from you. And also don't forget, I will be linking some additional vids by the end of this one, which might be interesting for you because they are related to these news. Thanks a lot for watching, stay tuned and game on.